Get ready to discover the greatest RPGs available on PlayStation Plus Extra with our top 20 countdown. Number 20. Trials of Mana. Trials of Mana is a remake of the original game that was released in 1995. It is quite faithful to the original, both in terms of gameplay and story progression. An argument could be made that this iteration is just a 3D rendition of Trials of Mana. Consequently, as the 1995 title is hailed as a classic, the modern version is also pretty great. Players get to pick 3 characters from 6 protagonists, all of which come with unique backstories and development. Trials of Mana utilizes a real-time combat system that starts shallow but blossoms nicely as the campaign progresses. Actually, that is something that extends to the entire game, as the campaign picks up considerable steam during its second half. Number 19. Pathfinder Kingmaker Definitive Edition. Pathfinder Kingmaker is a massive game that once upon a time would have remained confined to PC. However, like JRPGs are more commonly found on computers nowadays, studios are also more willing to port isometric RPGs to consoles. Packed with all the DLC, the Definitive Edition is intimidating right from the gate, giving players the pick out of 16 classes. With more than a dozen regions to explore, Pathfinder Kingmaker is a commitment that will consume someone's life for potentially months. Along with combat, which comes in 2 forms, this RPG also incorporates a kingdom managing system that permits players to lord over regions and eventually the entire map. Number 18. Kingdom Come Deliverance. Kingdom Come Deliverance is not for the faint of heart. This RPG teleports players to a medieval kingdom that destroys the ill-prepared and the vulnerable, and surviving in Bohemia requires practice and a willingness to overcome failure. Kingdom Come Deliverance prioritizes realism, and this extends to the progression system. Rather than selecting a class and focusing on that, the protagonist naturally grows depending on the skills they develop. Kingdom Come Deliverance features realistic combat and a vast open world to explore. The game's graphics and attention to detail make it a truly immersive experience. Number 17. Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 tells the story of the power of friendship and light versus darkness as Sora and his friends embark on a perilous adventure. Set in a vast array of Disney and Pixar worlds, Kingdom Hearts follows the journey of Sora. Sora is joined by Donald Duck and Goofy to stop an evil force known as the Heartless from invading and overtaking the universe. Sora and his friends unite with iconic Disney Pixar characters old and new to overcome tremendous challenges and persevere against the darkness threatening their worlds. This game is really fun and has an easy mode so younger kids can play it too. Kingdom Hearts 3 has good messages and the main character is a great role model for kids. Number 16. Yakuza 6: The Song of Life. The Song of Life is where Kiryu's story in the Yakuza saga comes to its dramatic conclusion. This entry is as dramatic as the series gets, with the focus on Kiryu taking care of his adopted daughter's son as she lies in a coma from a hit-and-run incident. Yakuza 6 is an absolute emotional roller coaster of a game, seemingly bringing an end to Kiryu's saga in a fitting story that focuses on how far people go for family. In many ways, Yakuza 6 feels like a smaller and more focused experience, and that's absolutely for the better in this case. Varied sub-stories and minigames, combat that feels more visceral because of the Dragon engine, and a fantastic cast of characters really help Yakuza 6 excel. The side quests and sub-stories aren't just throwaway distractions, but are well-written and always worth doing. The Song of Life looks and feels like one of the most technically advanced games in the series, and RPG fans will appreciate the heavier focus on stats experience points. Number 15. South Park: The Fractured But Whole. South Park: The Stick of Truth and The Fractured But Whole are both on PS Plus Premium and Extra, and any fan of Trey Parker and Matt Stone's series owes it to themselves to play through these RPGs. Although not too far removed from its predecessor, the sequel fine-tunes just enough aspects to be a clear improvement. The Fractured But Whole parodies superheroes, particularly their domination of the film industry. The grid-based combat system is solid, while the game looks exactly like the show. Hopefully there will be future South Park games. Number 14. Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 is the latest mainline entry in Gearbox franchise, not counting the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands spin-off. Due to being a long time in development, the looter shooter was highly anticipated, and it largely managed to live up to the hype. While the story is rather divisive, Borderlands 3's gunplay improves significantly on previous entries in the franchise, offering a far more responsive and weighty experience. Borderlands 3 is naturally packed to the brim with loot, to the point that the shooter constantly showers players with new weapons and shields. Each Vault Hunter comes with their own nuances, roles, and powers, which not only heightens replayability but also complements the game's co-op. If you're a fan of looter shooters, then Borderlands 3 is definitely worth playing. Number 13. Child of Light. Every once in a while, Ubisoft develops a game that makes people question, is that really by Ubisoft? Child of Light might be the best example of this phenomenon. A turn-based RPG that incorporates platforming sections, this title is endearing and does not overstay its welcome. As Aurora, players traverse the kingdom of Lemuria in order to defeat the Queen of the Night. Along the way, she meets a few quirky heroes who join her team, helping her fight off a colorful range of enemies. Child of Light is one of those PS Plus RPGs that can draw a permanent smile on a player's face. Number 12. Final Fantasy XV Royal Edition. Final Fantasy XV Royal Edition elevates the RPG to new levels, including add-on content and new features. Square Enix brought the Final Fantasy series into the open-world genre with this release. Prior to Final Fantasy XV, fans still got a taste of open-world gameplay with installments like Final Fantasy VII, which allowed them to traverse an overworld via an airship. But Final Fantasy XV marks the first time that the series has entered a state of true freedom, allowing players to traverse a large open world filled with enemies, items, towns, and secrets. The end result is a fascinating and unique Final Fantasy title that follows 4 protagonists on a journey across an expansive land built with the same hybrid-style active time battle and action combat that players have come to love. Number 11. Disgaea 5 Alliance of Vengeance. RPGs come in many styles and flavors, and the same holds true for JRPGs. Ranging from old-school turn-based classics to fast-paced action epics, PS Plus Extra and Premium highlight the genre's variety. Compared to other classifications, tactical JRPGs are less common since they are a bit more niche. That said, PS Plus covers this area with Disgaea. The premium tier has Disgaea 2, 3, and Disgaea 4, all of which are rock-solid games with addictive combat and charming characters. However, Disgaea 5, which is also available with an extra membership, is the franchise's crown jewel. While the story is nothing to write home about, the 5th entry has by far the best gameplay in the franchise, and that includes Disgaea 6. The grid-based combat is accessible but also deep, mainly due to the game's awesome class system. Number 10. The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. Released in the same year as Dark Souls, Skyrim's longevity even manages to eclipse From Software's title. Available on 3 console generations, the Western RPG was a massive critical and commercial success right out of the gate. Offering detailed customization options and plenty of loot to discover, Skyrim gives players freedom in how they want to interact with its world. Like Dark Souls, Skyrim takes place in a dark fantasy universe, albeit one that is not quite as apocalyptic as From Software's projects. Although Bethesda's masterpiece is far more story-driven than a traditional Souls-like, the RPG arguably shines the brightest when exploration is pushed to the forefront. Simply existing within Skyrim can be more exciting than fulfilling the role of the Dragonborn. That said, the latter produces some excellent moments as well. Number 9. Scarlet Nexus. Scarlet Nexus was a pleasant surprise, as the JRPG genre does not frequently produce new IPs with relatively big budgets, particularly ones that garner a positive reception. This game takes place in an alternate reality where empowered humans are tasked with fighting off threats known as the Others. Players can pick from 2 protagonists, both of whom have different combat styles and storylines. While there is a fair amount of overlap, 2 playthroughs are required to experience the full story. The action JRPG plays out like a hack-and-slash game akin to something like the Tales series, although players cannot swap between their party members. The combat system is fast-paced and surprisingly deep, even if it takes a while to unveil all of its mechanics. Narratively, Scarlet Nexus is also a success, and the game leaves enough room for a potential sequel. While it might not have the name recognition of Final Fantasy or Elder Scrolls, Scarlet Nexus is one of the best PlayStation Plus Extra RPGs. Number 8. Yakuza 0. Yakuza 0 was a brand new entry in the Yakuza series, and being a prequel, it is the perfect starting point for newcomers to get into the series. It's also arguably the best game in the series, and its quality helped the series gain a lot of new fans in the process. The game's story is played from the perspectives of the series' main character Kiryu, exploring his early days as a young member of the Yakuza. Every fan of the series should definitely put this game on their radar. It has the same setting and stylized story that fans have come to know and love, but may have the deepest and most involved storyline in the series to date. Yakuza 0 is a great jumping-off point. It's the best place for newcomers to start the series as it offers an introduction to the characters, some of the best combat, and some of the series' best mini-games. This game is largely responsible for the series' rise out of obscurity and into the mainstream in the West. Number 7. Ys 8. Ys has been a staple of the action JRPG scene for decades, particularly on PCs. Although not the first entry to garner attention in Western countries, Ys 8 helped expand the franchise's visibility since it features graphics that did not look as dated as its predecessor's visuals. More importantly, the action JRPG has a fast-paced and awesome combat system that is accessible but also hides a fair amount of depth. Set on a reasonably sized island filled with monsters to slay and discoveries to be made, Ys 8 strikes a healthy balance of battles, character building, and exploration. Ys 8 is one of the most fun JRPGs on PlayStation Plus, and it's definitely a game that you should not miss. If you are enjoying this video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Number 6. Nioh. Nioh is a dark fantasy RPG that takes inspiration from ancient Japan in creating a visually satisfying and patience-challenging world. It blends reality and fantasy to the point that the line between actual historical fact and mythological inspiration becomes blurred. As William, players navigate open areas filled with secrets, enemies, and bosses, the latter of which are usually well-designed and very challenging. Along with a robust loot system, Nioh's combat allows players to swap between different stances, adding an element of strategy to encounters. Nioh is not an easy game though, and many fans have compared it to games like Dark Souls and Sekiro's Shadows Die Twice. If comparisons are to be made, Nioh is like a more colorful and mystical Shadow Die Twice, with slightly easier gameplay, but a much more comprehensive narrative. Number 5. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Final Fantasy VII was a landmark release for the RPG genre, and the 1997 game holds up after all these years. That classic is without question one of the best JRPGs on PS Plus. However, the same claim can also be made regarding its remake. Square Enix has opted to retell this iconic story through a modern lens, one that provides a lot more than just a graphical upgrade. Utilizing an action-based battle system with a couple of turn-based options, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade delivers fast-paced and addictive combat across a plethora of playable characters. Intergrade is the PS5 version that includes Yuffie's DLC, and it is a substantial addition that features unique bosses and mechanics. The PS4 version of the game is also on PS Plus Premium and Extra, so a subscriber does not need Sony's latest console to play this title. As Square Enix has announced that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is on the way, this is the perfect time for newcomers to jump into the first game. Number 4. Horizon Forbidden West. Almost a year following its debut, Horizon Forbidden West has been officially added to PS Plus Extra. Besides being a big get for the platform, this announcement might provide some indication of how Sony plans to treat first-party titles when it comes to its subscription service. Horizon Forbidden West retains what worked in Horizon Zero Dawn, which is also on PS Plus Extra, all the while expanding on a few things that could have been improved upon. While the 2017 release has a beautiful and impressive open world, its sequel fills it with more interesting side content and micro-stories. Consequently, Forbidden West Snap feels slightly more alive. When it comes to combat, the game delivers thrilling encounters that pit Aloy against both humans and robots. The latter is undoubtedly the campaign's highlight. Horizon Forbidden West is a worthy sequel that continues the original's great storytelling and visual feast, and it is a superb game that any RPG fans will thoroughly enjoy. Number 3. Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age. While Final Fantasy is better known in North America, Dragon Quest is undoubtedly the king of RPGs in Japan. After a long stretch away from Western home consoles, the franchise made its international comeback with Dragon Quest XI, a glorious throwback to early JRPGs that proves the formula is not broken. Dragon Quest XI adds a handful of quality-of-life improvements to the base game, along with a few neat additions such as a 16-bit mode. Offering a lengthy campaign, beautiful visuals, endearing characters, and straightforward but enjoyable turn-based combat, this Square Enix project is among the best JRPGs on PS Plus Extra. Number 2. Demon's Souls. Souls games have never been more popular, and this is a remake of the game that really started it all. Not only is this remake just astoundingly beautiful to look at, but is as mechanically faithful to the original as possible. The only changes are to quality-of-life features, leaving the challenge of besting the levels and bosses all on your shoulders. It's a little clunky in some ways but holds up remarkably well for a game over a decade old, thanks to the new coat of paint. As a lone warrior who has braved the baneful fog, you must face the hardest of challenges to earn the title Slayer of Demons and send the old one back to its slumber. Demon's Souls is a great remake and a must-have PlayStation 5 exclusive. And finally, number 1. Bloodborne. Bloodborne is a dark fantasy RPG inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft, Bram Stoker, and other classical horror authors of the early 20th century. It is developed by From Software, the same studio behind the Dark Souls franchise and Elden Ring. Bloodborne was released as a PlayStation exclusive Go and is included with PS Plus Premium and Extra. It's one of the most challenging RPGs ever made, and its uniquely disturbing visuals are paired with incredibly fine-tuned gameplay. Bloodborne offers a dark and engaging adventure with an excellent combat system, an ideal dose of innovation, and fascinating exploration, which make it a classic every PlayStation owner should try at some point. And that was our top 20 RPGs countdown on PlayStation Plus Extra. Make sure to check out our other PlayStation Plus videos, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.